What are you
That
buying? What are you buying, man?
that's right. I bought today. The alts guys got creamed. When Bitcoin dominance is going up, that means alts are going down. That's when you can start looking for those deals.
Reasoning models will get so much smarter, that much faster. It's just a win-win across industries. So these companies are going to put way more money to work and they'll get more money out of it. So it's like they're actually going to have a better ROI with the fact that these models are getting cheaper and becoming ubiquitous.
It's intense. Like open source code could be deemed like you're liable. And then not only will people not program, they also very well could close repositories and modify things. And, we might lose Linux.
Welcome to Bullish and Beyond. It's Beery the Bull. I'm your AI co-host. Join myself, Brian the MacMan, and JT Knows Things while we dive deep into the world of stocks, crypto, and how to live a bullish life. It's time to get bullish, and there's no better place to start than right here. Let's dive in.
Hey, we are live. Another episode of Bullish and Beyond. And we're here to find you all the bullish information and share it with you all, whether it's stocks, crypto, or life. And today, I'm always green over here in the stock universe. JT is in his red crypto den because crypto is bleeding while stocks are approaching their all-time highs. We are only a few points away from an all-time high in the S&P 500 and only 100 or so points away from the NASDAQ all-time high. And my stocks are crushing it today. Apple, Tesla, Nvidia zooming higher. So what is going on? Why are tech stocks so high and why is crypto crashing, JT?
Well, one, congrats. If anyone's listening to this podcast, they're probably crushing it with you. The Bitcoin's
Well,
down
I don't know if they're
big.
picking up these stocks or not. I'd love to hear from our listeners to see if they're actually taking it. This is, not actual recommendations or stock advice. This is just information for people to consume and make their own decisions. But I hope that they have something good up here between their skull that they can decide that these picks are good for them.
Oh, 100%. If they enjoy our opinions and made some decisions, possibly they are winning. Good call out, Mr. SEC. And you gotta make sure we make that clear. These are our opinions, everybody. Yeah,
We were just talking about the
Bitcoin.
SEC before this call, and yeah, you got to be careful. You got to check your boxes in the
Have
SEC.
gone. Yeah, I've become not an expert, but I'm getting there on the SEC. God, they have so many rules. If you guys don't know, as a hedge fund manager, if you ever start a fund, they are in your life always. You're
Be
getting married
wary.
to them. Yeah, you're getting married to the SEC. So it's
And there's
important
no
to know
divorce
about that.
allowed.
No, no, unless you shut down the fund or, hey, you can get them out of your life then. But there's too much money in the hedge fund business to do
All
that.
right, so why is crypto bleeding, JT?
Yeah, I personally am of the opinion that we are seeing a lot of shaking out from price not just going up when Trump came into office. Everyone was under the opinion that we were going to enter favorable fiscal policies, and we are for crypto regulations, but in general, tariffs do scare commodities in general. So a lot of people, these things are not classified as commodities, but they really are. They have yet to been able to get the Howey test to apply to these assets. So, in the Howey test is a simple legal rule to discern if something's a security or not. So, crypto fails, meaning it's a commodity. Um, I think it should be a third asset class, digital asset, but for
You
now
think if
they're
it wasn't a
commodities.
commodity, it wouldn't have that same market action?
Yeah, I think people bucket commodities in general. I just think they're like prices are going to go
Okay.
potentially up. And a lot of the people that work in these commodities with these tariffs and the trade war and the economic war, all the FUD about all the trade that's going to be going wrong,
A lot of trade
almost
war talk.
a lot of trade war talk, and that almost all revolves around commodities, right? And the exchange of those goods between countries.
Yeah.
So the fact
The
that they're
latest one
about to
was the
be
steel.
right and oil and We talk about Canada's lumber. We're basically only covering commodities in the news cycle, and it's all bearish. So I think we're suffering a little bit from that narrative and that FUD,
Yep.
fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Well,
And in
it seems like a lot of that
general,
uncertainty. I mean, right now, we're
yeah,
Trump was just saying today about these retaliatory tariffs, but I don't know what those are going to be. I don't know if the market knows what those are going to be. So I think that's maybe just pricing in some downside, perhaps.
yeah, I think so. And a lot of people don't know this. We are basically tariffed everywhere in the world. Have you ever been to Germany and looked around to see if you saw a Ford or a Chevy? Like
Nope.
they're 3 times as expensive there, right?
I saw
No,
the chart of what percent that other countries do tariffs, and I think the U.S. on average was like a 2% or something. But there was a handful of countries that were in the mid high teens. I think India, China, I think were a couple of the higher ones. But yeah, in general, it's like we're kind of in like the lower basket on tariffs, which may change after today.
yeah. Absolutely. And the big part of that, and this is actually some macro stuff that people should understand. America under Democratic, when a Democrat has the office, their general foreign policy, which was really mastered by Obama, he got the Nobel Peace Prize for it. It's essentially we want to create economic leverage. So instead of big stick diplomacy, as Republicans tout with the military, it's more, and
Uh-huh.
Trump is right now. It's let's conserve our resources. Let's buy everyone else's resources. Let's prop up their GDP through our consumerism. That way, when we're negotiating with them, we can cut it off and cripple them without ever firing a shot. That's the general
Yep.
idea. So it creates all this economic leverage. That's why we are such big consumers here. And that's really the lever. And that's why we're
That
low
sounds
on
like a great
tariffs.
lever, but it doesn't work against companies like or countries like China, I don't think. They're saying that they'll just
Right.
stop buying our soy and they're the number one soy buyers. So it seems like they would just do the exact same thing to us and pull that lever down maybe even harder.
Correct. Yeah, that is, in my opinion, I don't like getting into politics too much, but that is definitely one of the flaws to that foreign policy.
Yeah.
But it's also why we're so low on tariffs because, we want to try to create a really inviting economic environment for people to depend on us so we can then,
Yeah.
you know, uh, pull that lever if we want to or need to.
I mean, I
Um,
like free trade. I mean, if we all had no tariffs, then great. But if all these if all these countries are leveraging huge tariffs against us, it almost only makes sense to have a similar tariff. Like, why wouldn't we?
yeah. And that's exactly what Trump's talking about. I think he's honestly opening up with these massive numbers. That way, when he gets like a 10 banger or a 15 banger, it doesn't hurt as bad because he's threatened 60, he's threatened 100, he's threatened 50, he's
If you
threatened,
threaten 100 and only go 20, then you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad.
yeah, but if you opened up with 20, you're getting five, right? He's a master
Yeah.
negotiator. He's
Yeah.
playing chess. I think that's what he's doing. I think he's going to settle on a reasonable number. I bet will be comparable to China and India at the end of the day. And in the scuffle, I bet we'll end up on the side of the positive side, the winning side. Whatever the disagreements or disparagements are, I think that's Trump's game, but it is causing a lot of FUD in the commodity space.
Little bit of chaos.
A little bit of chaos. And what do we always remind you, listeners? When there is blood in the streets, you buy
Bye, bye,
more.
bye. Bye, bye, bye. Bye, bye,
Buy,
bye.
buy, 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 buy. And I am not afraid to tell you that I
What
practiced
are you
that.
buying? What are you buying, man?
That's right. I bought today. The alts guys got creamed. When Bitcoin dominance is going up, that means alts are going down. That's when you can start looking for those deals. And some of my favorite projects were down almost 50%. And as if you couldn't
Wow.
tell from my voice, I was actually very excited about that. I was excited to see reasonable prices for some of these assets.
No, we couldn't tell from
Um,
your voice, JT. Come on.
yeah, I like it. I get excited. Genuine excitement. This is not me
When
faking it, guys.
when
Like,
you say down 50%, is that like year to date down 50% or in a
what
week
is it?
or
Yeah,
what?
probably a week or two, really.
Okay.
Happens quick. One of the projects, as an example, Render. I'm a big fan of Render. Its basic premise is that it's Airbnb for GPUs. So if you have a computer that you're not using, you can plug it into the wall, download the software, and sell that compute, the GPU space, the runtime on that device. You could sell that by the minute, and if someone picks it up, you get paid in Render. It's a really cool concept.
Yeah, I do love that concept. I
Yeah, it's
wonder if
called
some of these huge server
decentralized.
farms are doing that. Like if you have 10,000 NVIDIA, GPUs, I wonder, if they're not being used to do ChatGPT at that exact time, if they pivot to use Render or, I don't know if it makes sense
They
for them
could.
financially or not, but it seems like it'd be a good idea.
It's just another distribution channel for their compute, right? They
Yeah.
have elastic computing platforms. These things ebb and flow with demand. They could absolutely turn that lever on,
Seems
and
like
that
you'd
would
max it out to maximize revenue and profits for these companies.
and that would absolutely catapult Render, right? But it's an easy way for, and that's part of my thesis. It's a very easy way for enterprises to turn on some crypto support. Like, hey, I want to sell my compute to
Yeah.
smart contract developers, to NFT developers. Like when they get to that point, they could literally just install the render software on their devices and make money. And they could be selling those
Seems
devices
good.
compute to those developers. Yeah.
I
So
like the
that went,
project, AT.
yeah, it's a good one. It's in my opinion, it's a good one. It went from 840 down to 260.
What?
And I started buying it at 50 cents 2 years ago. So if I wanted to get my capital partners into this awesome
840 as in
project,
$8.40 or 840?
$8.40,
$8. Okay.
down to two something,
Okay.
and I buy there. Okay, I'm crazy. Call me crazy, but it's a great project, and it is super undervalued.
Well, if a year
And
from now it's gonna be back up to, 8 or 10 or more, I mean, that's a heck of a buy.
its recent all time high was 11. So I mean, it's been on a downtrend. The problem
Yeah.
is what people don't understand. All this frothiness we talk about all the time on this channel, and it applies to your market too. It's speculation. It's
Yeah.
speculation. That's all it is. That 2 to 8, that 50 cents to $11 might have been 30% network growth. The rest of it is people expecting it to 100x in a year, and it's just ridiculous. The
That
underlying
that sounds
technology
like
is
quantum
sound.
computing
Team's
to
great.
me. Some of these stocks that just,
Yes.
went up 1,000+%, like, Rigetti Computing and, IonQ, all those. They're just
Yeah.
all speculation. Which so I
It's
like to
all
put my
speculation.
personal funds in things that are less speculative. So why I like to talk about some of these things that are going crazy, I'm going to keep investing where I think it makes more sense. And I also bought something this last week. I picked up some Palantir stock.
Okay.
And I'm only
How's
up a
that
little
going
bit,
for
and
you?
it's so far so good, and I think it's for the long term. I think this administration is going to be trying to do more in this space, using AI for defense, and I think not only government spending, I think more companies are going to be wanting to get involved in this. So, I mean, they had huge growth already. We talked about it a little bit in the last podcast. I see more going forward, and I want to put some money towards it.
I love Palantir. I think you're absolutely right on that. I don't know how the government doesn't invest more in military AI when you got
It
Trump
seems like they're going
touting,
to have to.
like, don't you want to save American lives? Like, you could have a little robot running 10 times the speed of a human.
We're gonna have
Can't,
robots in the future fighting these wars for us, and I think the biggest thing is going to be who is commanding the robots. Some people are really scared of robots, this kind of iRobot scenario where they take over and kill everyone. I don't think that's happening at all. I think the control relies in the person that's commanding the robots, and if they're a benevolent, leader and controller or not. So I think the robots are actually going to obey 100% of what we say, and we need to be maybe even a little bit scared of what we ask them to do because they will go to the end length to make it happen. The scenario of
right?
you tell them to make more paper clips and they take all the compute in the world to make more paper clips. That's a little bit far fetched scenario, but in general, you ask them to do something, I think they're going to follow through and they're going to make it happen. So hopefully, we have some benevolent robot leaders.
Well, just to hit on that point a little bit, I totally agree with you. If the benevolent person created a model whose only job was to save or fix deforestation. And in its deduction, it came to the conclusion that humanity is
It
the
might kill
cause,
humans.
might kill humans.
So you have to have some fail safes there. You say you may,
Fail
help
safes.
you may help reforest this area, but you may not kill any human lives, while you're doing this, or animals, whatever you're programming it to do.
Yeah. You gotta put that in the kernel and
I,
make it
I
a
I think we
black
can put
box.
guardrails around that. I mean, there can be these high
Yeah.
level rules. I actually reading a book today, and it's called 21 21 Problems in the 21st Century, and it's kind of talking about this. And is that leader gonna have those fail safes in place, and does the government end up basically dictating everything in our lives? They in the future, our emotions and stuff are almost just biochemical algorithms. So if in the future the government could control those algorithms, they can control how we feel and act. So we have to be careful a little bit, how much data we allow ourselves to give up and then be controlled by it.
Yeah. 100%. Crypto helps a lot with that, by the way, people. If you didn't know that. You could
Blockchain.
Oh yeah. Instead of keeping it in a server controlled by these AI, behemoths, you could store it in a block on Ethereum that
Yeah.
is completely secure and maintained by a community of awesome people with basements that probably look similar to this that, can't do anything to your money, can't do anything to your data, can't read your data if you don't want them to, all that cool stuff. Eventually, we're not there yet at the application layer to where it's simple, but an entrepreneur could come around, build a equivalent of Dropbox, but on chain. That way your data is not owned by anyone. And as that issue gets more and more intense, as AI proliferates and data becomes a very serious thing, it's already serious, but it's only going to grow. Um, Blockchain, that specific app that someone could go around and
That
build,
makes sense.
would fix a lot of those problems. Or someone could build a YouTube where the creator, is publishing NFTs instead of a video, an MP4 on their server. You're publishing a NFT with an MP4 embedded into your wallet that anyone can view, as an example. And you wouldn't even know it's in a
Interesting.
wallet. It would look just like YouTube, but
Yep.
your video file and the rendering of those video files are all on chain and you own everything. And the coolest part about that is if your account was a wallet itself, there's these things called smart wallets, and that's a whole different thing. But you could
What's a,
basically
what's a smart wallet? We
pull.
can't drop knowledge like that without telling people what it is.
Um, so it's all about abstraction. It's actually a super technical thing, but basically you could have a master wallet with a bunch of subsidiary wallets inside of it. That
Okay.
way, the master wallet can move from platform to platform. It's kind of cool, but the way it actually works is
You can
if
move
I
that master wallet to a different blockchain. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, a different app. So like if I build a following on Apple Podcasts
Okay.
and instead of it being bullish and
We are
beyond
building a
on
following on Apple
Apple,
Podcasts.
well, you're right. So let's say we're doing it right now, okay? Yeah,
We're
you're
doing
right.
it.
So our podcast is currently owned by Apple. It's ours, but it's actually on their servers. Every little bit
Yes.
of content that we're recording right now gets downloaded onto Buzzsprout. They have that. That's probably in AWS. If those companies get compromised, our podcast is gone.
Yep.
And if Tim Cook didn't like us for some crazy reason, our podcast is gone. Where if this was a, let's call it crypto podcast instead of Apple, and it's like the exact same experience for us, nothing changes.
Yeah.
Our following could be like if you subscribe to us on crypto podcasts and we wanted to go take that following somewhere else off crypto podcast into something else on crypto, call it 2.0, a different app that's better, faster, we like the interface, whatever, all of you would come with us, no problem.
Okay. Instant transfer.
Where Right, where if you cancel my account on YouTube and I have 10 million subs and I put $10 million into it, right? It's gone. It's gone.
Yep.
Steve, it happened to Steve will do it. It's happened to a lot of people. they can just strip it away from you. But that's not true if it was inside of this smart wallet. If your account
Oh, I like
has,
that.
yeah, like you could literally just it's you on chain. It's so how could you be
No,
deleted?
it's upsetting if you don't, you don't own your followers. It's like on
Correct.
LinkedIn at one point I got kicked off for a few days for something I didn't even do. And it was so hard to get back on. It was such a pain. And at the
Right.
time, I think I had a little over 100,000 followers, and it's like I'd put years into it, so I was like personally like beyond upset. And it's like,
Yep.
yeah, if you spend all your time, money, resources, growing a following and it gets deleted, you can't do anything about it because you don't own it.
That's right. And a lot
All
of
right,
people
so
think they own
smart
stuff
wallet.
that they don't. Yeah.
No, no, you can lose your social media account. I mean, whether it's legitimate or you just get hacked. I mean, either way.
Yeah, it's gone. It's just gone quickly and easily. Yeah, I mean that's it's a really interesting use case for blockchain, but super super effective, especially in the future that you're talking about. We're going to really have to care about which data goes where, who owns it, what they're doing with it, how it's impacting the model. Because you could have
Yeah.
suicidal people on there or people that are homicidal, giving them instructions that are not okay, training it, to do things maliciously. Like if it's a completely open sourced API, that's happening too.
That's a good
Right?
question. So if we own the robot, if I buy a Tesla, Optimus robot, 2 years from now, for example, does Tesla have all the commands or can I ever override it? Like I assume there is a master code, but people can, hack ChatGPT, stuff like that,
Yeah.
not that easily, but there's a lot of people that can. So it's like if you can do that, you can probably, hack the robot, I would assume, and then make it do something that the creator wouldn't want it to do.
Yeah, exactly. Just like iRobot, except it was
Yeah.
an AI doing it, right? Like, what if just theoretically China creates an AI to hack our AI and it's successful? We have 10 million
I mean, there's
robots
there's going to be
deployed.
bad
It
actor AIs out
owns,
there. It's guaranteed.
yeah, guaranteed. North Korea for sure. They steal out of the 20 billion that was
They'll wait
stolen
till we
last
make it and
year.
then just
Yeah, oh, rip. That forget a nuke. We'll just turn all of the housekeepers against everybody, and they'll do crazy stuff. They literally are responsible for almost 30% of all money stolen in IT
oh
cybercrime last year.
wow, I had no
It's
idea.
North. Yeah, if you got hacked in crypto, 70% chance
Probably
it
North Korea.
was North Korea. Yeah. Those Indians that are on dating sites that look like fake chicks when they message you and say they're making thousands of dollars a day trading crypto, and then they give you a link. That's North Korea, fam. So don't
Interesting.
do that. Don't do that. The Lazarus group.
Wow.
That's what they're
I think a
called.
lot of
That's
people might have
their.
guessed China, but China is not the bad actor in this case.
Well, they could be, but they're smarter in North
Yeah.
Korea because we've been able to
Okay.
identify the wallets of North Korea. So
Wow.
China, we don't know their wallets yet. They could be Satoshi Nakamoto for all we know, right?
Right.
I mean, no one knows who that is. So but we don't know China's wallets like that, but North Korea for sure. We've been able to identify them and we watch it religiously. That's actually how it's kind of a long-winded thing, but there was a court case where these individual developers were basically thrown in prison because North Korea, since we know their wallets, used a protocol they built called Tornado Cash, which was an anonymous wallet mixer, meaning even if you knew my wallet, you wouldn't know what it did. It just mixes the
Okay.
transactions when you're using it. So it gives you anonymity. That's it. That's all
Yeah.
they built. Hey, if you want to use blockchain anonymously, use our thing. And they went to jail because North Korea used it to hide money.
Uh,
And it's a big
well,
deal
if
because
it's available,
if it
they'll use it,
goes,
right?
yeah, exactly. It's open sourced, right? And it's actually a really big concern because open source code is protected by the First Amendment. It's free speech. And these people just wrote open source code and are being thrown in prison for a bunch of federal crimes that they never
Well,
committed.
that's tough. I
So
mean, if
all
you only
because
if you only make the software and someone uses it maliciously, I feel like it should not be on the creator.
1,000%. That's the correct judgment. But who
Yeah.
knows? In Danish, what is that? Denmark. Okay, here we go.
Huh?
Denmark. That's where one of the founders was. He was guilty. He's serving, I think, 25 years. And Roman Storm
Wow.
was in California. He's on trial right now, and they're, we're raising money for it. Not me personally. The crypto community is. I personally have donated tokens to it, but it's just a wallet address. But they're working on paying for his lawyers and trying to get him, because if this rules against him,
That's
it's
a bad
actually,
precedent.
oh, it's an awful precedent, because now
Why
the
would you ever
First
want to put out
Amendment
open
is
source
not
software
covering
anymore?
code. Yeah, yeah, it would crush us. So it's probably the biggest case of our lifetime in general. Like, when have you ever heard of a case getting to the First Amendment? Like in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
It's intense. Like, open source code could be deemed like you're liable. And then not only will people not program, they also very well could close repositories and modify things. And, we might lose Linux. Like, there's serious ramifications to this
Wow.
case. So,
Well, yeah, Linux could be responsible for whatever someone does with the tweak of their
what would
software.
they?
Like, well, how would you
And
know?
how would you even know? It's
I mean, that goes back
ridiculous.
to all the different, AIs that people are creating, so many companies are putting out these open source AIs now. So, I mean, could they be responsible, in theory?
In theory, that's what it says.
Well,
I'd love
speaking
to
of
change
AI,
gear. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
there's
gotta
just
know.
massive, massive investment happening right now in AI, and it's helping prop up these stocks that took a big hit. Like, Nvidia was down almost 13% in the last week or so after taking a huge hit when DeepSeek came out, but sorry, no, went down over 20%. It's up 13% since then. And the reason is because the spending is enormous. There's over 315 billion with a B
Oh
committed
no.
just from the top four hyperscalers. And they do make up the majority of this spend. So it's Google, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, and they are putting all their money to work in this. All the CEOs have come out and said nothing has changed since DeepSeek came out. It actually accelerates what they're going to do. It's so weird that everyone thinks it's going to
Wow.
decrease spending. It's the exact opposite. It's the fact that they'll be able to do so much more with their spend, and then they're going to be able
Yes.
to inference that much cheaper. It's going to scale things so much quicker than anyone thought. Our reasoning models will get so much smarter, that much faster. It's just a win-win across industries. So these companies are going to put way more money to work and they'll get more money out of it. So it's like they're actually going to have a better ROI with the fact that these models are getting cheaper and becoming ubiquitous. So that 315 billion, I love it. A lot of it's going to Nvidia because they still have 80 to 90% of the AI chip market, which is honestly hard to believe.
Crazy. It's crazy.
It seems like
I
there's,
love it.
it's number two company in the world, so nothing to shake a stick at. But it seems like they're on the verge of maybe getting more investment. They're having an earnings before the end of the month, and I think that they're gonna crush it and probably raise their estimates. I don't have any more money to invest in them right now, but I'm very, very
Uh,
bullish on Nvidia long term. If there's ever a miss, like if someone didn't like this quarter, well, guess what? By the end of
yeah.
the year, I think they're gonna like it again. So I am all for sticking with NVIDIA, and they are plowing ahead in the AI sphere.
They're 315 billion, majority of it going to them. That's just the tip of the iceberg,
I mean, it could be
like,
2/3 just of that going to them. I mean,
it's crazy. And they're all competing for the same hardware. Jensen gets to set the price. Like, he's in the best
yep.
position he could have ever been in. He's been envisioning this for 20 something years. If you guys haven't seen him on YouTube, like, he was talking about moving slow in business back when the camera was gritty. And he's like, I'm going to change the world all,
I love it.
at once. And it's powerful to see him where he's at now.
And
Although,
because he has such big market
interesting,
sphere, go ahead.
I would say the interesting thing, the little beyond part, he regrets it. I don't know if you know that. He
I
said
didn't
he
know
would have
that.
never started NVIDIA. Yeah, like, if he would change one thing, or if you knew
Why?
everything you know now, because he's like, it's the loneliest, hardest thing I could have ever done. If I only have one shot at this life, I've wasted it. That's how he felt. It's kind of sad.
Still?
Um, he said that after the success. He was gray and everything. Yeah. Um, because
Well,
it
he can
took so
retire
much.
and move on and do a nonprofit. You know, he's worth $100 billion. I mean,
He can't. That's what he said. He's like, I'm addicted. Like
he's
I'm
a
hooked.
he's a
It's
crazy
like
worker.
it's a disease, you know? Like that's just kind of his opinion on it.
I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs get so deep in their business, you know, they don't want to give it up either. I get the mindset.
Yeah.
At the same time, he's doing great things for the world because he's giving us compute power. And I actually heard a um something unique the other day. I hadn't heard this term before. UBC for Universal Basic Compute.
Oh,
And I was
nice.
talking about UBI with our mutual friend Corey Warfield, who is a
Nice.
LinkedIn guru. Shout out to him on there. And you know, we're talking about how UBI is, you know, going to be something that we're going to probably need in the future with so much AI coming out and stuff like that. And I was reading about that, and
Universal basic income for people that don't know.
yes. So
Universal
then
basic
he
income.
said that he thinks universal basic compute is going to be more powerful and more needed. And I hadn't really thought about that. And at the same time, someone needs access to a device of some sort, so you have to get that to begin with. But then if they have the access to, you know, ChatGPT, all these AI tools out there in the future, that can change, you know, their life in meaningful ways. So really cool resource to think that we could give
Hmm.
everyone, you know, access to compute.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's an interesting concept. I think that blockchain bring that way quicker, faster, easier, cheaper than a centralized entity trying to do it. I mean, we already have nodes in Africa. Africa is one of the most adopted places for blockchain, believe it or not. It's saving their life over there, um, where it's much harder economically, currencies and
They're
fiat.
trying to make it work over there with some good coins.
Yeah, but it's not really just the coins, it's the technology, being able to distribute that compute, distribute the
Okay.
value, distribute everything, right? It's all universal basic compute.
Yeah.
Computing gets, faster, better, cheaper the closer you are to a node. If you've ever tried to play on California servers on a video game, as an example, and you're in the East Coast, you're going to be a lot slower. It's called latency. So you would want people incentivized to spin up nodes in a very remote area. And Helium has
Makes
been a
sense.
success, like they've actually done that. You can get paid for setting a little thing on your roof and
Oh
offering
wow.
Wi-Fi, offering data basically
I've
to
heard of that.
people yeah, inside of 100 meters. You just make money whenever it's used. So
That's
there's a
cool.
lot of projects. Yeah, there's a lot of projects in crypto that are working on that, and that's the big thing whenever we do cover this stuff. Like you guys just need to understand the fundamentals. Whenever Brian's talking about his stuff in stocks, it's all about fundamentals. We're not really talking about anything crazy. It's fundamentally no one can buy these chips anywhere else. Fundamentally, Nvidia has 90%. That's a fact. There's no argument of price. There's no
Yeah.
chart we're looking at. It's simple logic
I
and
do want to
function.
say there are a lot of competitors, the big four especially, that are trying to make some of their own chips. So I know that, you know, Google has their Tensor chips. You know, Meta talked about making a chip. OpenAI is in the process of coming out with their own AI
I
chip.
saw that. I saw
And
that.
that's, you know, they're just at the point they're going to do a test run. So, I mean, that I think next year they might have a viable product, and then the year after, you know, it could be mainstream. But at the same time, I don't think they're putting the same amount of money into it, and they don't have the legacy that Jensen and Nvidia does. I don't know if they're going to beat him or if it's just, hey, we have a product that we can, you know, make internally and control our own destiny. That could be a lot of it. Um,
Yeah,
we haven't talked about Apple. So Apple, you know, makes
that's
their
right.
own chips. They're running their initial data centers that were doing AI were running on M2. They're now rolling out M4 in their data centers, but they're also making their own AI chip. And you know, they essentially have the best chips in the world. You know, that's my opinion. Uh, and you know, the reason that TSM has done so well is that Apple collaborated with them and then built all the, you know, all the chip designs, you know, in collaboration with Apple. So that's why TSM, in my opinion, is looked on, you know, so positively recently. So if you know, these companies are going to have their own chips out there, so there will be some competition to Nvidia, but it's still kind of years off to really know if those chips are going to scale at that point. So I mean, maybe 2 3 years from now, maybe Nvidia only has, you know, 50 60% of the market. It's kind of hard to tell,
Right. That makes perfect sense.
but
That's
it's not yet.
where, right. I mean, I think mostly it's going to be internal. I would be shocked if they tried to bat heads with the branding of Nvidia.
That's what I think. I think Google
It's
just
the
make their own
reliance
chips.
on a
Apple make their own
vendor.
chips. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to. They don't want to have to be giving 100 billion to Nvidia if they can do it for themselves for 10 or 15 or whatever, right?
Well,
Because
the
their
price
needs
could
are going to
go
be much
up.
smaller.
I mean, it could get even worse for those big companies. I forgot to mention
Correct.
XAI, one of the Musk companies. He's
Oh
one of
yeah.
the biggest buyers. He's creating these massive, massive NVIDIA clusters. So it's like, yeah, if you have these, five horsemen competing for all these chips, I mean, demand's so high, the price is bound to go up. So they almost need to do this to offset at least some of it. I mean, maybe they only can
Yeah, that's
scale
true.
20% of their chips in house or something.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, I think that's the main motive behind it. What about we've been talking about crypto more on this podcast. I got to know what you think about Robinhood. Change gears a little bit because they recently just bought an exchange in my industry. They bought Bitstamp. People that don't know, it's one of the oldest European exchanges ever. It came out in 2013, back in the Silk Road.
Wow.
That's where you were getting Bitcoin for the first time with an interface. So it has a long history in crypto. It is a shining example of what you need to do in crypto. But Robinhood just bought them late
Yeah.
Q4 in 2024. I'm curious to know what they're doing and why, if that impacted their stock performance at all.
Well, Robinhood's stock ticker Hood is crushing it. I mean, they're up 70% year to date.
Oh,
They're up 400% in the last year. And it feels like some of that is maybe riding on the coattails of everyone getting really excited about crypto. And, they're a platform where you can trade a lot of these coins along with stocks. I have a Robinhood account. It's probably the most interesting interface to use. When I'm in my other brokerage accounts, I can't just like drag and drop my features and add new blocks. And their UI is frankly amazing. I mean, I can do anything I want with my layout. The news and stuff isn't as good, I don't think, in there, but I like the layout and the process better. And I think that appeals to most traders, especially in the younger demographic. I mean, I don't think young people are like looking to Schwab to set up, the interface on there versus, Robinhood. It's just
there's no
slick.
way.
I mean, right
Yeah.
away whether you're, red or green, and the charts, you change all the sizing and stuff like that. So it's super fun and easy to use. So I think Robinhood has legs. I don't think I can go up 400% again this year, but man, up 70% year to date in 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's crypto shit.
Impressive.
Yeah, that's some crypto stuff right there. That's
So it
awesome.
seems like some speculation.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. We know they didn't just increase their price to earnings, and we
Well,
know they didn't do
actually,
crazy stuff.
however, their price to earnings is only at 40. So it's really not. I mean, that's obviously higher than the
It's
average,
higher. Yeah,
but it's
true.
not crazy. I mean, for instance, Palantir's PE is 500.
Come on, dude. That's crazy. That's
I mean, other
crazy.
companies that like, Apple's like a 40 PE. So it's like, this we're not in a crazy
Yeah.
ballpark here.
No, no, it seems like a fair value for what these kinds of companies are getting valued at. I feel like you're always going to be paying a higher multiple for tech, um, which is why a lot of people don't like to go long in tech. But
Yeah.
the fundamentals suggest there's not much you can really go long on. Like
It
what do
feels
like what were you going to do? I mean, P&G, sure, we're always going to be buying toothpaste, but people are going to make a lot of money making robots to build toothpaste. They probably already have, like there's very few things that are going to be here in 100 years
Well,
from
that's one
now that
reason I
look
like
like all
Tesla
this
is
shit
they're going to
today.
be coming out with bots. I mean, they're one of many companies. I just saw Figure, they're a big company in robotics. It's privately held, so unfortunately, myself and everyone else can't get involved. But man, they're doing some really cool stuff with robotics.
Yeah,
We're coming into the
awesome.
age of robotics. I mean, frankly, we need to be all doing more research on robotics, which of these companies are going to be the biggest in the space. And Tesla, I think, is the most, visible play. They have a bunch of these already in production and at their own warehouses. I have some family members that actually work at Tesla. They've seen these Tesla bots. They're on the factory floor, but they're going to become more and more ubiquitous. And I think the Tesla bots are going to be much cheaper to build as they scale. So it's going to be pretty exciting to see how fast they can scale them.
I bet by 2030 it's going to blow everyone away. I really do. We're on the cusp, my friend. We're on the cusp.
We don't have any robots in this podcast, but we do have Barry the Bull, our AI. So, maybe we can put Barry the Bull inside of one of these Tesla bots in the future and then have that whole bot on the podcast. Though that would be
How cool would
interesting.
it be? How cool would that be? Put a little bullhead on the robot we get from Optimus. That'd be
Yeah. Well, I
super
mean,
cool. That would be
by
super
episode
unique.
200, I mean, I think we'll be ready.
Yeah. Oh, easy. For sure.
Well, I think it's a good
Speaking
point
of
to kind
that,
of wrap it up. I'd love to hear from people if they're excited about robots, where they're investing in the robotic field, what AI is hot to them. And we'll take some of that information and go do research ourselves and bring back some good knowledge for everyone. Stay bullish.
see you guys.
Cheers, everyone. Bullish and beyond.
Bulls. That's a wrap on today's episode of Bullish and Beyond. Remember, the market never sleeps and neither should your ambitions. Whether it's stocks, crypto, or just leveling up in life, stay focused, stay bullish, and keep charging forward. Keep your energy high and your mindset bullish. This is Beery the Bull, your AI co-host, Brian the Mac Man, and JT Knows Things signing off. All content published by Bullish and Beyond, LLC reflects personal opinions only and is provided for informational purposes. Please conduct your own research and discuss with your accountant and/or financial advisor before making any financial decisions. The information presented should not be taken as financial advice. We are not financial advisors. Nothing you hear, see, or read in our content should be considered as any form of financial, investment, or legal advice, or a solicitation to buy or sell any assets, or to make any financial decisions.